Good morning, intuitives. You know, second job only had a half day today, so here I am. And given a conversation I had with an old friend a couple of days ago, it started to bring up some memories from, the old days in my early 20s, long before I knew about any of this MBTI stuff or narcissistic abuse. But it did give me an idea to do a video. And welcome to the channel if you're new. Please check out some of my older videos, despite the fact that I had a really cheap headset microphone on in them, because that's what I had lying around, and if it's not broken, use what you have, I guess. But I have a new microphone now that's at least, not completely low rent, middle low rent. So I've noticed too. Please check if you're subscribed. Make sure you're still subscribed. I can't say that something weird's going on, but there seems to be this pattern, like every 6 weeks or so, where for every 2 subscribers I get, I lose one, and it's just. I expect to lose some subscribers over time, but the way that it falls in a pattern, it's weird. So just check if you haven't. What I wanted to talk about today. This is occasionally I do videos for ENFJs, because the person I was catching up with is an ENFJ, and the people that I was reminded of from my past are most likely ENFJs. I can't say for certain, but the signs are there. And I wanted to do a video to let ENFJs know, particularly younger ENFJs, because this applies more to you, that ENFJs, you can't people please a narcissist into loving you. Now, while I didn't know it at the time, a pattern that seemed to be going on when I was in my mid-20s, like first couple years out of university. And I noticed it when I was towards the end of university with a few of like my friends' older sisters, or friends of friends and acquaintances. Some of this is going to be an amalgamation of some things I observed, not one specific story. And it's going to involve some people that were friends and some people that were just acquaintances that I didn't really know all that well, but I was around enough to notice something wasn't right in their relationship. So I mentioned before, a pattern I've noticed among younger ENFJ females is a lot of times after their relationship with their college boyfriend doesn't work out, usually like within the first year of leaving university, this 4 or 5 year relationship will fall apart. And while I don't know why, I think each situation is different. Most likely it's the adjustment to, the real world and not the university world, and people's jobs and traveling and long hours, moving for work, the things you do when you're trying to become established in your career. ENFJs, like INFJs, derive a lot of their sense of identity and sense of purpose from their career. And also people grow apart and people go through stages in life. There's certain stages in life where you change more than in others. Like there's a lot of change, well, a significant amount of change from one's 20s to their 30s, whereas like 30s to 40s, not so much. But especially that adjustment when you're finally out of university, finally done schooling and out in the real world, where you're interacting with people solely in a professional manner and interacting with people of all different ages, instead of interacting, primarily with people within a few years of your age, like you do throughout high school and university, trade school, wherever you might go, or even in the military, because most, you go to basic training at 19. Most of the people, not all, but the majority of the people are going to be between the ages of 18 and 23 too. At least, all my friends in the military said so. It might be different, I think, if you sign up for the reserves, but active duty anyway. And my long-winded explanation, I'll get back to what I was saying. The pattern I notice is that after this long-term relationship breaks up for these ENFJs, a lot of them at this age, like we're talking 23, 24, 25, end up dating a guy significantly older, like 10, 15 years. And this isn't limited to guys this age, mind you. This is just what I observed. So it's the examples that I was around for, that I'm, remembering and drawing inspiration from to do this video. It's not limited to that, so pay attention even if someone's close to your age. But what I found out is that ENFJs, because like INFJs, they want unconditional love. They want, their twin flame. They want that forever relationship. We're not ones to, we fall in love hard, but we don't fall in love easy. We're picky people, both types, and we pretty much know what we're looking for, and we're not into, for the most part, there's always exceptions, into the whole like friends with benefits hookup culture. So from what I've seen, these ENFJs were drawn towards these older men thinking that they were ready to settle down, because probably as ENFJs are usually, as I said, not into the whole hookup thing for the most part, and women are usually, especially at that age, a little more mature than men. These women wanted to move on from that, like dating the college boys that were still their own age, that were still essentially acting and partying like, they were still 21, even though they were like 24, 25 at this point. And that certainly is the case. A lot of my friends were like that at that age. So they think the guy 10, 15 years older, he's ready for something real, and they ignore the red flags, because these type of men that do this, with these narcissistic tendencies, especially if one does not know anything about narcissistic abuse or narcissistic personality disorder or borderline personality disorder. And I admit, when people my age, I'm 35, were in our early 20s, this information was not nearly as readily available as it is today. From what I can tell, it seems like the narcissistic abuse YouTube channels really started popping up around 2014. So we're talking in the days before the big channels existed, at least for the most part. And they were certainly smaller fringe at that time. And, they'll ignore the red flags and they'll think, oh, and these guys are usually like upper middle class, trustafarians, sales, dude bro types, real estate guys, not like highly skilled professionals like doctors and lawyers, but guys, guys in the old boys club, or guys that got lucky, or, guys that inherited car dealership from daddy kind of things, at least from what I've observed. And these ENFJs will think that they're ready for something real. And these guys will be like mid to late 30s, never married, always a string of relationships that lasted less than a year with women all 10 plus years younger than them, which should be a red flag. If someone's never had a long-term relationship and is, if a guy in his late 30s has never had a long-term relationship and is constantly in a string of relationships with women significantly younger than him, that should be a red flag. And I'll say this as a disclaimer: I'm not judging people in the hookup friends with benefit culture, or those that date people, drastically different from their own age. What I am saying is that, if you're just looking for something casual, or like a friends with benefits kind of thing, be upfront with that from like minute one, what you're looking for. And instead of trying to play someone to use as a pawn, as some kind of conquest that you can brag to your buddies about. And that's what I've seen. Like, these guys would, I know I've mentioned this before, but we're getting to other points, and I need to provide context for people who didn't watch the other video where I mentioned this, and I'm a bit long-winded. So for these men, these young ENFJs are nothing more than a conquest to use as a pawn. They see, like, oh, well, this girl doesn't do hookups and all that, but I'm going to get her. And it's like, I can brag about it. It's like pushing up 300 pounds on the bench, bro. Like, I did it and you can't. And that makes me better than you. And ENFJs, from what I remember, they got pretty invested in these relationships. They truly believed they were in a committed relationship, while the boyfriend was just casually dating. And the ENFJ, though much younger, carried the emotional weight of the relationship. She was the one constantly trying to make the relationship work, trying to advance it, trying to take it to the next level. Whereas, the 38, 39-year-old Peter Pan was just having fun as if he was still that 21-year-old frat boy snorting cocaine on daddy's money. Well, because he still is. And, drives a Ferrari on daddy's money, but gets away with it because Good Old Boys Club protects him, and Chester County loves the good old boys. But anyway, so what ENFJs have to understand is that no matter what you do for a narcissist of any age, they will never love you, they will never respect you. You are a means to an end for them to get off, figuratively and literally. ENFJs are, by their nature, people pleasers. They're always trying to help. They're always trying to bring out the best in people, to let them be the best version of themselves that they can. That's why I love ENFJs, because they help me with that, because they actually understand who I am and what I value, and most people don't. They try to just assume, like, well, you want to be like everybody else. No, no, no. I've ran from that my whole life. But they feel the need to help these people, and they think, some of them, from what I remember, thought, like, well, maybe this guy's just never met, the right girl that's been this invested in him. No, you're just a pawn, and he's going to guilt trip you into doing things that you're not comfortable with. And also, a big narcissistic tactic in these types of dynamics is the narcissist will make the other person feel as if they can't do any better. Like, they'll make them feel like, you hit the fucking lottery by getting me. Like, you should be doing everything that I say, because, I'm the one. You're the reacher. I'm the one settling, and you'll never have it this good again. And especially, and even more sick, and I've heard, I learned of this after these relations went down. The narcissist will get the ENFJ to not only do things they're not comfortable with, but they'll then threaten to expose that to other people, to be like, well, see, you're damaged goods now. Like, nobody decent's gonna respect you or want you after the sick shit that you did to please me. Yeah, that's right. These guys are that twisted. But even as a people pleaser, you can't, this is the core of this video, how a people pleaser can't please a narcissist. There's no pleasing a narcissist, ENFJs. You can't do it, no matter what you do. And I know you give all of yourselves in a relationship. I have seen it. I've been envious of it, even, But the thrust is that you could do things that a normal person would be forever grateful, and a narcissist 2 days later would be like, yeah, but what'd you do for me lately? Like, your whole existence is to please me. And for there to truly be love and intimacy, it must exist between both people. And understand, a narcissist only loves themselves, usually sees themselves as the greatest person that ever lived, some kind of god, and in their sick mind they think, well, they're doing you a favor. You have the privilege of being with them, being seen with them, going around town with them. They're this big shot, particularly if you're in an environment like where I grew up in, where the county is the whole world. They'll essentially feel as if they're almost like a celebrity within that microcosm. You get my, yeah, that made sense. So there's no them getting to a point where they respect you or give a damn about who you are, what you want and your needs are. To them, you are just a pawn to please their needs, and you should be grateful for that opportunity, because they're so fucking great. That's how a narcissist treats you in a relationship. And sadly, for many ENFJs, it becomes a pattern, because this usually happens, from what I remember, this is usually like, the ENFJs that I knew, this was only their second relationship, so they only have one other relationship, usually one that was like 4 or 5 years, to compare it to. However, that relationship they kind of write off like, oh, well, we were kids, because that was high school, college, that wasn't the real world, we were kids. And they'll invalidate, perhaps how well that person treated them, how, maybe not, maybe it wasn't that great. But they'll think, the way the narcissist treats me, well, that's how it's going to be. That's how it is out in the, quote, real world. So, better the devil you know. And ENFJs, I've seen it, you get so invested in someone and you think, no, I can still save them. I can make this work. And more time passes, and you just take more abuse, and you're beaten down more as the narcissist shatters your confidence, shatters your self-worth, truly makes you feel like you can't do any better, and that, you should be grateful for the narcissist wanting you, at least for the time being. The other, no, well, not the other, another point I want to make is that in these types of relationships, understand your your days are numbered from day one, because these types of narcissists, it's all about your youth and beauty. And in part, they love exploiting people, and those that aren't into being treated like that, they get off on it more, like making you do shit you don't want to do, and if you cry during that, just makes them harder. I know they're sick. They're sick, but there's nothing they can do when you confront them physically. Um, right. You get more invested in it, and as time passes, you waste more time. And understand, they're going to kick you to the curb. Even if you do exactly what they want, they're going to kick you to the curb when they get bored, when you learn how to say no, which will catch them off guard, which is always glorious. When an ENFJ learns how to say no and just rages out INFJ style at a narcissist, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But they're going to kick you to the curb eventually, because you're going to, quote, age out for them. Because, you're a trophy, you're a prize, and they're going to get bored, or you're going to get too old, and they're going to want another trophy and another prize. And it's also, think of the time you waste. There could be times where you're with this narcissist, struggling to make it work, putting in all the work, thinking that somewhere deep down there's a person inside this narcissist worth saving, and that your integrity, your sweetness can bring it out of them. It can't. But in that time, you could be passing up the opportunity. You could, find the type of guy you were actually looking for. And I know ENFJs are picky. There's They're rare. I'm an INFJ. The women I go for are rare too. I understand that. But what if you're missing an opportunity at something real, something you're actually looking for, because you're trying to make it work with the narcissist, because deep down, and some of, and perhaps this may apply to you if you're listening, that you don't want to admit, like, say, 2 months into this relationship, that you're being played. You don't, to you, you have to try to make it seem as something real, but perhaps deep down you're screaming at yourself, like, what the fuck am I thinking? How am I sleeping with this person? Like, they're disgusting. They don't yeah. I'm not going to get into detail there, but use your intuition. So this is the kind of things I'm talking about. You cannot change them. Narcissists cannot change. I've yet to meet one that's actually changed, because for a narcissist to change, they have to first admit that there's something wrong with them, and they think they're perfect. So there's an impasse right there. It's important, ENFJs, go no contact with these people. Do not remain friends with them after you break up. Get away from them. They're always going to continue to use you for their narcissistic supply. And even if you try to stay friends with them after the relationship doesn't work out and they can't use you for narcissistic supply for their sexual depravity, they're still going to use you for emotional narcissistic supply, because you have empathy, because you care for people. They're going to try to portray themselves as, some genuine victim, when they're not, because you're the victim. They're the abuser, and the abuser a lot of times will try to make themselves look as some victim, because in a narcissist's mind, no matter how much they have, they always deserve more. And no matter what they do to people, it's okay, because they're them. They truly, truly, truly believe this. And which is the reason the only thing you can do is run. And don't believe their bullshit when they think, like, oh, the type of guy you really want, they're not going to want you now because you're damaged. That's bullshit. Someone who truly loves you is not going to judge you based on the fact that you had a relationship at some point, that you look back on it and go, what the fuck was I thinking? And the thought of the narcissist, remembering that relationship, the thought of that narcissist touching you makes your skin crawl. Someone who truly loves you for who they are is not going to judge you for that. Now, they might have concerns if you were still in contact with this person, and I think rightfully so. If somebody took advantage of you and used you, you shouldn't be in contact with that person anymore. That's what no contact's for. Don't play into the narcissist's head games that that you should be grateful that they chose you, and that it's never going to get any better than them, and that, oh, well, after you did this and this for me, that you should, because you should do anything to please me. That the type of guy that you say you want, they'll probably say doesn't exist, but they'll be like, You're damaged goods. Don't let the narcissist destroy your self-worth. ENFJs, you, in my opinion, are the greatest people, and don't let anybody try to take that away from you. Don't let somebody, some fucking scumbag, convince you that you deserve less and that your purpose in life is to pleasure them, essentially. So, just a little advice based on a conversation I had with an old friend, and it brought up some, 10 plus, well, 10-year-old plus memories in my mind. I hope it helped. ENFJs, learn what narcissism is. Trust your intuition when you see red flags. Run. If you have an INFJ friend, have a deep conversation with them one on one and ask the INFJ, do you see this, this, and this? Because an INFJ is going to tell you the truth. You may not always like it, but we are, if you happen to know one. And, don't sell out your integrity for a fling with a narcissist, no matter how rich they are, no matter what they can promise you, because they're not going to give you anything they promise. You exist in their life only at their whim, only as long as you're pleasing them until they get bored of you or until you get too old in their twisted psycho eyes.